Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 258. Welcome back to the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess. I'm your host for this show, founder of Wander Wealthy and financial coach turned business coach. Here on the show, we talk all things building a money coaching business and help anyone from absolutely brand new money coaches to those who are seasoned and just looking for some community guidance and maybe a little motivation, momentum, if you feel like you might have lost that. We talk about sales and marketing, building your life-changing coaching program, mindset, and how to have that fortitude to build something out of completely nothing, and everything in between. And this week, I thought we would do something quite fun. I'm going to get a little personal with you and share my 7 biggest business quote unquote fails in my 7 years in business. So a few days ago, maybe a couple weeks now, I was going through my emails because I am not an inbox zero type of person. I wish I could be that person. It's just not me. I'm more of like an organized chaos type of person. So my email inbox is definitely not at zero. I like to keep the emails read for the most part, and a majority of them are sorted, but some things I just have this weird kind of like mental holding on to it, keeping it in the inbox, because I don't know where to put it, but I want to save it for whatever reason. So that happens a lot within my email inbox. And anyway, all that to say that I only said that just to be like, hey, you don't have to be inbox zero kind of person to run a successful business. But if you are, you can also run a successful business. But all that to say, I was going through my emails and I found a couple emails that were a little bit embarrassing. Like I was trying to email someone many years ago about pitching my YouTube channel at the time and working on some kind of partnered, sponsored content for the channel. And I called the person like not by the wrong name, but I didn't include their full name. And then, they got back to me letting me know that. And I felt really bad, but like those kind of things that happen. And although that is a very small example, it was a moment of like what I would chalk up to kind of like a little business failure or a little maybe just like personal embarrassing moment. But I think about those things and I think about also the conversations that I have with my clients. And what really happens is that a lot of us, when we start out in our business, get in our own way. We know what we need to be doing. We know what we should be doing, and yet we don't do it because we're afraid of failing at doing that thing. Or we're afraid that we'll do it, but then we'll fail some other way. So a lot of us are just very extremely afraid of failure. And I thought, why don't I kind of just use this time to reflect on the last 7 years, but also share some of my kind of big and small. It's definitely not like my biggest business fails, but honestly, I probably have blocked out some of my biggest business fails because I was thinking for a long time on this and I could not like think of anything that seemed terrible. Although there are some, I also wanted to share some of those smaller things that I think we can get really worked up about and that end up not being a big deal at all. So I'm just going to go through a list kind of in random order of my 7 business fails, so to speak, to show that failure is not that scary. It's often scary before it happens because we chalk it up to this really, really big thing. It might be a little bit terrifying in the moment because obviously we don't know what the outcome is going to be, and maybe most likely we feel embarrassed or shameful for some reason. But at the end of the day, after, a month has passed or a year has passed, really, you just look back at it and go, oh yeah, that happened. That's funny now. Or I learned a lot from that experience. Or, hey, that wasn't actually so bad as I really thought it was in that moment. So I wanted to share my bigger business failures with you, big and small, I guess, just to kind of bring the walls down and say, hey, I've failed too, and I'm okay, and I'm actually getting better because of it. And maybe we can make this idea of pursuing what it is that you want, in spite of the fact that failure might exist in some way, shape, or form along those lines. It's almost necessary for you to get to the other side, is to do it knowing that failure could happen. It probably will in a lot of small ways, but you're just going to get up and be stronger and pass that time and move on and be better for it. Now, before I dive in, I want to just make a quick announcement. I am enrolling clients for the Wealthy Coach Blueprint one-on-one coaching with me. The Wealthy Coach Blueprint is my 12-week one-on-one, as I said, personalized coaching program for new, aspiring, and seasoned money coaches who are feeling a little bit lost. Maybe you don't know how to get started, or maybe you've been doing something and it's not quite working, or maybe you're just having a hard time articulating what it is you can offer and who you offer it to. We work together for 12 weeks to build out your life-changing coaching offering so that you can feel confident in what it is that you have to sell. And you can also feel confident in actually selling that thing, because we train you up on all things from the mindset of what it takes to be a successful, thriving entrepreneur, to marketing and selling your program, to also building the world's best program for your ideal clients, and so much more. If you want to join me, I'm opening very, very limited number of one-on-one spots to work with me. And this is the time to get in. So head to wonderwealthy.com/blueprint to check out the details, and let's chat. All you have to do is click the button, fill out the application, and then determine what is the best way for us to get in contact from there to make sure that the Wealthy Coach Blueprint is the best next step for you. So wonderwealthy.com/blueprint. All right, let's just dive on in, shall we? I'm just going to expose some of my most embarrassing, biggest failure moments in my business. Now, okay, of course, I forgot this little disclaimer that I want to make, which is that I'm using the word failure pretty loosely here. I tend to talk about failure in a way that, A, it's inevitable for us to fail. And so we can minimize it in a way so that it doesn't have to be so scary, right? And also that, you know, something that I learn a lot in my coaching certifications and that we talk about is that there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. And so when I talk about failure, a majority of the things that I'm talking about, you might not even see as a failure, or they might be terrible, terrible failures for you. And when I talk about it, it's more of like the biggest learning moments for me and what I've come to know about myself and building a business, or what, you know, needing to be more careful or needing to be totally okay. And so as we go through this list of 7, I want you to know that although I'm calling them failures right now, a majority of them I don't even think are, you know, like failure with a capital F anymore, because I've grown past them. And, you know, it's just now I'm reflecting on it and saying, hey, you might also, where you're at, think this is a failure like I did when I was in that position. And I want you to know that, like, now I'm still calling it a failure for the sake of this podcast, but it's actually just, you know, like I mentioned before, it's either funny to me now, or I'm really grateful for that learning experience, or something in between. So, number 1 of my biggest business failures in my 7 years is that I joined a group money mindset program because I thought the universe would repay me. Now, bear with me here. This isn't necessarily something that I created for others or something that I'm necessarily embarrassed about specifically, but it's a reflective moment of where my mind was when I joined this specific program, and just kind of feeling so desperate to want to make something work that I thought just by paying for this program, the universe would repay me. And I'll say this, it's not entirely my fault, right? It's none of our faults, right? It's our responsibility to know what to do with it moving forward, right? Paying for this program and paying a good sum of money to be in this group program so that I, could believe the universe would repay me. That's a lot of marketing lingo that we hear today. And so there's still people that say, pay me to be coached by me just to be in my energy, or invest in yourself so that you can see that money, flow back to you. And although, I do have a crystal charging, Palo Santo burning, tarot card reading, woo-woo manifestation side to me, I also know that just by joining today, I know that just by paying to join something does not mean that money is going to come back to you. And a lot of people pitch things that way. And so I am like, hey, Tess, 3, 4, 5, I don't even remember when this was, 4 years ago now. It's okay that you did this because you really thought that that's how the universe worked. But now I can look back at it and go, oh wait, I actually know how the universe works. The universe works in the way where, yes, a lot of people have experience of paying for things and then getting repaid, quote unquote, by the universe, getting that money back in waves. But it's because they're not just paying for the thing, they're then taking the action to do whatever it takes, to do the thing they need to do to make the money. So manifestation doesn't happen without action, but a lot of us try to or want to believe that it does because we want that easy way out. We don't want to do the work that feels hard or that feels, challenging to us, a little bit uncomfortable potentially. But the truth is that's what it takes. So that's my big lesson. I joined that program. It was in total chaos. There was no organization. It was one of those bad experiences. And the entire reason I joined it is because I truly believed the marketing lingo of the universe will just repay you when you invest. So yeah, that's a good one. If you've ever made a bad investment through your business, know that you've probably learned something from it. It's not a waste of money. I've made even bigger investments that you could chalk up to a waste of money. I guess I'll have to save that for one of my bonus ones because I did not include it in the list. So I will circle back to that story. All right. Number 2 is that I did everything I now tell my clients to avoid doing if possible, which is that I skipped straight to selling a course, a very low priced course, a very low priced DIY course without doing any one-on-one coaching. And this was a fail for me because, first of all, I guess the launch of the course was rather successful. I had a good chunk of women specifically going through my course, but I think I only charged them like $74 or something, which compared to the value that I actually gave in that program is like such a steal. And I would never, ever, ever have anyone offer something like that today. But I didn't know any better. And honestly, the reason I created a course first was because I thought it was better for me, right? I thought, well, I can't scale with one-on-one coaching and I'm just going to be able to sell this passively. And also I was scared of getting on the phone with potential clients, which I think therein lies the red flag. If you don't think you can coach someone in a one-on-one setting, why are you trying to do that, but in a way where you're actually significantly removed from the process and doing it in a very, remote DIY, totally digital setting. It just doesn't work that way. What I teach now in the blueprint and what I learned and kind of figured out I needed to do throughout my coaching years is that I need to focus on one-on-one. I think we all need to focus on creating a really solid one-on-one offering to validate that the process that we want to teach and how we teach it and how we help our clients kind of track their progress and hold them accountable and ensure that they're actually taking action, that we can do through the one-on-one coaching. And so again, I really urge my clients who are going through the Wealthy Coach Blueprint to start as intimate as possible, to start a one-on-one program that then they can slowly remove themselves from to then create a DIY self-paced type of course. So do as I say, not as I did. I made all the mistakes so you don't have to. And I had skipped straight to selling that course. I sold it at such a low rate for my beta testers and then really, really tried to sell it at a higher rate for a long time. But I really didn't have the validation and the proof that it worked and the marketing chops and even the market research that would help me market that program. And so I built it entirely backwards, which sadly is what most people believe is how you're supposed to build a program and how you're supposed to build your business, is start with the lowball thing first because people will pay you for that. And it just simply doesn't have to be that way. You can start higher priced, more intimate, more one-on-one, and then you can start to scale from there by offering things that are a little bit lower priced to the audience members who maybe aren't quite there yet to pay that higher price point. But you got to make it make sense for you too. And let me tell you, what is $74 multiplied by 20? Okay, it's like $1,400, $1,480. And I was jazzed to earn significant money. But now that I'm looking at that, I definitely didn't sell 20 or I didn't sell it at 74 because I made around $500 from that first launch to my beta program. But it was exciting for me, but definitely, I did the numbers that way and it definitely wasn't going to work in the long run if I kept going at that rate. So doing things differently pays off. All right. Number 3. I too have launched my own group money mindset program. I believe that my money mindset program, I had learned what not to do in the program I invested in and what not to promise in my marketing. Yet I still launched this group money mindset program. 2 people joined, and here's the failure. I felt so much shame that only 2 people joined. I decided to make it one-on-one coaching instead of group. And I think a lot of us have this fear that we don't want to launch. We don't want to, put a program out into the world because we're afraid no one's going to sign up. And the reality is no one might. That's a possibility that no one signs up. There's also a possibility that only 1 person signs up or that only 2 people sign up. But here's the deal. We need to remove this only kind of word. It's a word. Let's be real. Remove the word only from our vocabulary because the fact that 2 people, for me, invested in this program, invested to be taken through this process that I knew worked because I've been through, and I knew this program was good because I had been through bad ones before. That's so special. And I kick myself today thinking back to that experience, knowing that I was ashamed and embarrassed of doing it group. And so I quickly switched it and was like, we're just going to do one-on-one because I felt ashamed about the fact that only 2 people had joined. When in reality, 2 people had joined. That's an amazing thing to do in the first round of launching a program that, I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily launch it perfectly like I teach my clients to do inside of the Wealthy Coach Blueprint. But even people who only, quote unquote, only get 2 people to sign up for coaching or whatever it looks like. We so often are quick to diminish these smaller numbers because we look around and see everyone else's huge numbers. And so then we feel like, I'm just not good enough. But the reality is, this is your opportunity to practice. It's your opportunity to improve and recalibrate and get feedback and deliver an amazing, incredible experience. So sometimes it's important to stop getting so wrapped up in the numbers, in, how many people are in your program, how much money you made from that launch, because if that's what we're making our business all about, that's probably why, quote unquote, only 2 people had joined. And that's probably where my failure was, right? Because I felt that shame and then I switched it over to one-on-one instead of group for that reason. Number 4, I went a long time in my business feeling I don't know if it's prideful or scared, but not asking for more testimonials or feedback. And that was a grave mistake. That was a big business failure. But guess what? I've learned from that, and now I've taken that failure and turned it into a learning moment, a teachable moment, as they say. I think it's hard for us to ask for testimonials or feedback. Feedback for sure, because when you ask for feedback, you're kind of setting yourself up to get potentially like constructive criticism, right? Now you're opening the doors for someone to give their honest opinion about something, and we want to protect ourselves from that. So a lot of us will just avoid doing it at all. And I think along that same thought process is also why we might not ask for testimonials either, because I don't know, we're afraid someone's going to be like, no, I actually thought your program was shit and I don't want to give you a testimonial. I just like that. That's never happened to me, luckily. And also, you're going to ask testimonials from the people who, committed and went through the program and get to the end and feel really good. And, that's fair too. But not asking for testimonials and feedback is such a grave mistake. And I wanted to share this with you because I think it's so important. Feedback helps you improve your program to make it the best thing for your ideal clients, the absolute best program out there for them, right? You can always learn and improve. And if you have a fear of getting started in this business because you're afraid your program isn't going to be good enough, then we have to ask for feedback. We have to know what we can be doing better. And that's part of building this business, is constantly looking for the problem that you need to be solving to improve the underlying offer that you've created. From a testimonial angle, and sometimes from feedback as well, you get such great marketing content. And it's such a strong way to provide that social proof, that kind of like peer review or referral from someone that an ideal client out there might feel like they know or can connect to because they see a testimonial from someone else. They don't have to just take your word for it. They can see what other people are saying as well. So these are 2 key things that can play a role in making your business more successful. And so for me, spending a long time feeling afraid of asking for that because I was afraid of rejection, honestly. I was afraid of any criticism of what I had provided. That was one of my other big business failures. But again, I've learned, I've improved, we've moved on. Number 5, after about a year of being in business, I ended up pivoting too often and too quickly without any actual outside proof that what I was creating wasn't working. Instead, I gave so much power to the doubts playing in my head that I would like emotionally act off of that and then pivot again. And then this didn't work, so I'll pivot again. And I think that really hindered my progress in my business. It took me a good 3 to 4 years to really gain the momentum of getting my business to that full-time status, or at least where I felt it was at that full-time status. I had so many doubts about the things that I was wanting to create. And so I went back and forth, and it just took up a lot of time. So my lesson here that I learned, and that I also can hopefully share, because I know that for anyone who has doubts about whether your business can work, remember this, but also anyone kind of thinking about pivoting or just even changing your mind about anything, is to remind yourself that those kind of who are most successful in business are quick to make decisions and then slow to change. So that's something that I really try to remind myself as well is, be decisive, but then be slow to change your mind. And it's okay to change your mind, but you really want to make sure that you're not changing your mind because of those internal thought gremlins that are, saying, hey, this isn't going to work and here's why, and gives you all the reasons which aren't even rooted in anything. And instead, you really look to validate your idea out in the world and get external tangible proof of whether you should change your mind or not. And this is something that finally, especially when I was thinking about becoming, doing one-on-one coaching and being kind of now a money coach as opposed to just like an educator and course creator, was I had all these doubts about whether I could do it. And I was thinking about moving to Europe, and I was just like, there's no way I'll be able to work with enough people to pay the bills from Europe, where a majority of my clientele are in the US and we have a time difference and all of that. And I decided, you know what? It's not my decision to make if clients are willing to make the time for me, given the amount of hours I can work according to the time zone changes. Let's just take the risk, even though I wasn't really taking a risk. It's just like, continue doing what you're doing, but like, spend more time focusing on selling one-on-one coaching and prove yourself wrong. See if you can prove yourself wrong that, one-on-one coaching actually can work from Europe, instead of just constantly believing internally that it's not going to. And I did that. So my failure in the beginning was constantly pivoting and giving those internal doubts way too much power. But over time, for me, unfortunately, I was just worn out, and I didn't really have a choice. So I just had to decide I was going to prove myself wrong. But I think a lot of us can go through that period and give our internal doubts so much power that we can stop altogether. And my lesson is just to say, find a way to prove it externally, tangibly on the outside, get numbers, whatever it is, and do what you need to do to prove yourself wrong. Just see if it's possible. All right. So that's number 5. Number 6 is YouTube. Oh, YouTube. Now I'm calling this a failure, even though it was a pretty good success for me. And it really, I don't look back on it with, feeling like it was a total failure. But I just learned a lot from that experience. So I included it in this list. So I started a YouTube channel when I was focused on money coaching, and I wanted to really build my following. And I also love creating videos. I love being on camera and being able to even edit the videos. Like the entire process is something that I really loved. But what I did learn is that I do not have the psychological strength to read through comments and see people judge things about me, the way I talk, the way I speak for too long before getting to the topic of the video, all of those things. And the problem with YouTube is that people make it quite public and they aren't apologetic about it at all. So for me, it was a failure in that one of the biggest reasons I quit YouTube was because it was draining on my psyche and really like pulling me down instead of making me feel special. And what's funny is that YouTube is my biggest social media platform to this day. I still have like 20,000 followers, subscribers on YouTube, and still get tons and tons of views on some very old and very poorly lit videos. But yeah, I couldn't hang. I couldn't deal. And that's something that I learned about myself. And the moment that actually, I don't know if he was my fiance at the time or just my boyfriend, but he just finally said, like, you got to quit YouTube. You got to let it go. The other sad thing is that I was making a good paycheck from YouTube. And I still get a monthly allowance from, not allowance, but, a monthly advertising payout that's not terrible. But at the time, I let go of YouTube at the height of it, and I was making a good sum of money, and I had really put a lot of time and effort and energy in building that up. And now when I look back at that time, part of me could look back at it and go, what a waste of time and what a waste of mental space and energy. But I try to look back on it fondly to show and prove to myself what I was capable of doing. I really, really set my mind to it and made 2 videos a week for over a year, I believe, and was able to be consistent with it and everything. And so now I can look back on it fondly, but, it feels like a big failure for me because at the height of it, I had to let go. So I don't know if there's a lesson in here for you. Maybe something resonates on your end as you hear about that. Maybe there's something that is going really well for you, but you hate, or that it's not healthy for you to be doing. And you're afraid to let go because it's a success, but you know that it would be better for you and probably the people around you, and potentially even better for your business or whatever else you're working on, that you feel relies on it, but you can show yourself that that's not the case. So just sharing that. I definitely was able to still build a successful business even through giving up my biggest social platform and just letting it kind of fade into the distance. The 7th business fail is that I spent forever and ever, months, not days, not hours, not even weeks, months, creating and getting up the confidence to launch my first freebie. Now, I have since learned that freebies are just such a waste for a lot of reasons. I'm definitely a email positive marketer and business coach. I'm not going to say like trash your email list or the email lists aren't important, but what I did was spend so much time building a freebie trying to get people's email addresses without really taking the time to understand who it is that I really wanted and what I was even going to do with those email addresses in the first place. And I think a lot of us spend time on these parts of our businesses where it's more part of like a process and a strategy, like building a freebie to then build your email list, or building your course to then be able to sell passively, or building your website, because then that means that you're official and then you can link your freebie to it, and so on and so forth. We spend a lot of time on that because it's a lot more comfortable to do than to do some of the harder work, which is like actually interviewing people for market research to understand if the course we're even building makes sense for them, or just going out and starting your social media profile and creating content on it, and knowing that that platform in and of itself is enough for you to start selling your program without having to spend time building a website, or to go out and actually start talking to your ideal clients or talking to and collaborating with other people who have an audience full of your ideal clients and pitching yourself in that way. And that feels uncomfortable. So then instead we're like, well, let me just create an awesome freebie that then, anyone on the internet can basically sign up for. And who knows if they're going to be my ideal clients or not. So we often spend a lot of time, and too much time, because then of course we overthink all these things because we want them to work, and we have this kind of like permanency complex where we think it's going to be permanent forever. We can never change it. And we spend forever creating it, and it ends up being a lot of wasted time for very, very little actual payout, because we haven't really thought through how people are going to actually land on our website to be able to sign up for the freebie and so on and so forth. So I'm a big proponent of, you can have a freebie. Of course, I have many freebies around my site. If you poke around, you can totally have an email list. And that's definitely something I suggest my clients get later on down the road when they're building out their business and they've already validated their program and created it for paying clients. But I don't think it's the number one most important thing to focus on when you're first getting started. And that was the lesson that I had to learn the hard way. All right, so there you have it, my 7 big business failures. I'm curious if you thought any of those sounded like a failure in your eyes, or if you'd be embarrassed or ashamed or just kind of going through something similar. You can reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at Tess_Wicks. Make sure you hit me up there. And you can even share with me what you feel like your biggest business fail was, and we can learn from it together. Now, before you go, I want to share some bonus ones, because why not? I mentioned one already, which is that I did the very first course I invested in, I paid $5,000 to get in, quit my job as I was going through it. And this course was supposed to teach me, and it did very successfully to many of the students who went through it. But I was like, yeah, I'm going to build a software as a solution product, a SaaS product, and become a bajillionaire. And I joined the course. I don't even know if it was like a 12-week course or what it was, but I spent a good handful of weeks going through it. I quit my job knowing like I'm going to dedicate myself to this. Clearly I didn't have a plan, because after a couple weeks I was like, I don't want to do this at all. I have no interest in creating a SaaS product for an industry I don't even care about. And I was having a hard time validating any other industries. And I just let it go. And that was my first business investment failure, if you will. But I learned so much from it, and being able to quit my job through it. One of the mentors in the course actually talked with me for quite a while about going through that process of leaving a job that I felt I needed to be so grateful for having. But actually being able to quit my job allowed me to start being more available to all these other things that I didn't think I was qualified to do or could ever do in my life. And it was actually a very special moment. So big business fail turned into something that I'm actually very, very grateful for. I've definitely called someone the wrong name in a voice memo /email/DM. I think I've probably done it for each of those methods of communication. I have typos always and everywhere. I'm a pretty big stickler for spelling and correcting things, but I still have typos in a lot of places, and even just had a hater come to my Instagram and comment on my story highlight with all the typos. And I was like, girlfriend, you try posting that many stories in a row and not do a typo yourself. But of course, they'll never do something like that. Another one is not understanding Instagram etiquette. And I actually used someone else's branded hashtag when I was posting my pictures, just because I thought that was a popular hashtag to use. And then that person called me out, and they were like a very big name in finance. I'm sure they still are. And they called me out, and they were like, hey, you're monopolizing, or not, maybe not, that's not the right word, but like trying to use my hashtag for your business. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that's not how hashtag works. Never mind. I will stop doing that. But I just had no idea. I was like, I don't know anything about hashtags. I just put a bunch on my post and have at it. Reading the comments on my YouTube videos. I guess I shared that already, but yeah, that was a big business fail because you just, the comments section can get pretty dirty. Going through a period where I called everyone on my email list babe. I wanted to be like Denise Duffield Thomas, but somehow she can get away with it. She calls everyone gorgeous and she can get away with it. She has that beautiful Aussie accent. And honestly, it's just not my style to refer to my friends and my people as babe. I call my husband babe. So it seemed like okay at the time. And I know other people who call each other babe, but I tried it and it was like really inauthentic to me. And someone even called me out about it, more so because they were offended that I called them babe. And I was like, oh, it's a term of endearment. But here I am learning every day. Now it's probably not the most, accurate word to use today to refer to someone I don't know via email. And last but not least, so many cringy Instagram posts that I made for many years. And I'll probably look back in 5 years at the ones I'm posting this year and go, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I think we always think that way. But if you feel that way about the things you posted last week, last month, or last year, don't worry. I feel that way too about my own stuff. So doesn't matter how you're going to feel in a year. Post it today, get it out there, because you're only going to get better and you're only going to improve. And also like fads and things that are cool, trends, they're only going to change. So of course you're going to look back and cringe. That's just how it works. All right. That was fun. Did you guys have fun hearing about all my business failures? I hope you did. Like I said, reach out to me on Instagram. I'm at Tess, TESS_Wicks, WICKS. And you can send me a message. I would love to hear some of your failures, or if you resonate with any of mine, if you feel better about something that might have happened to you recently, and just thought we'd have some fun today with that. If you want to join me for the next round, very exclusive round of the Wealthy Coach Blueprint, I have 2 to 3 spots open. I'm just like not even sure how many people I'm going to take on. I do happen to be getting married in June, basically. So still lots of work going on that end. So I'm keeping things light, but you can head to wanderwealthy.com/blueprint to fill out an application. And if you want to chat with me or DM with me, you can select that option and we can talk all about it. So wanderwealthy.com/blueprint. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time, I hope you wander wealthy.